Hello everyone, this is Showtime 112. We are moving ahead with our story of the Malta campaign. After the so-called illustrious Blitz, during which German and Italian forces attempted to sink the British aircraft carrier Illustrious as it was being repaired in Malta's harbor, the defenders finally had a chance to catch their breath. They even received some reinforcements, and by late January 1941, they had 28 Hurricanes, 4 Gladiators, and 3 Fulmars at their disposal. There were also 19 Wellington bombers on the island, giving it a significant offensive capability. We have covered some of the Wellington raids against Axis airfields in Sicily in a Patreon exclusive video. Becoming a supporter, even for a single month, gives you access to this and other Showtime 112 exclusive videos not available elsewhere. The German 10th Fliegerkorps, based in Sicily along with their Italian allies, continued conducting nuisance raids against Malta, especially targeting RAF airfields. After suffering some losses, such as the CR-42 on 1st of February and the U-88 that was so badly damaged it crash-landed in Sicily, the Axis power switched to night raids. That didn't make them completely safe from RAF Hurricanes, however. On 8 February, No. 261 Squadron launched 6 Hurricanes led by Flight Lieutenant James McLachlan. The British flight leader spotted a Heinkel 111, which he misidentified as a U-88 over Rabat at 10,000 feet and closed in to within 50 yards. Initially blinded by a sudden burst of anti-aircraft fire, McLachlan broke off, then returned for another attack and fired a long burst, observing a trail of smoke from his target. The German bomber did not catch fire, and the Hurricane pilot soon lost sight of it, feeling cheated of a spectacular victory. However, British listening services later intercepted the crew's final desperate radio calls before their Heinkel 111H from Kampfgeschwader 26 ditched into the sea. The crew survived, though one member was wounded. On his second sortie, McLachlan severely damaged the U-88, which managed to return to Sicily, although army personnel on Malta claimed to have seen it crash into the sea. The next day, 9 February 1941, AHQ Malta drew up a balance sheet of its fighter successes. Since 11 June 1940, British fighters operating from Malta had been credited with 63 Axis aircraft confirmed destroyed, with a further 19 probably destroyed and 27 damaged. Of the aircraft destroyed, 36 were Italian and 27 were German. But the defenders of Malta were about to enter a very dark period. Even though some of the Luftwaffe's units in Sicily were transferred to North Africa, others arrived to replace them, including 7th Staffel Jagdgeschwader 26, equipped with Messerschmitt Bf 109Es. This small unit, never more than 9 aircraft strong, would play a role in the Malta campaign vastly disproportionate to its size. The Staffel was led by Oberleutnant Joachim Müncheberg, who had previously been credited with 23 aerial victories. Most of the other pilots were also veterans with extensive combat experience against Hurricanes during the Battle of Britain. Until then, Axis forces had relied on twin-engined Bf-110s or Italian fighters for bomber escort. The arrival of the Bf-109 was a true game-changer. The German fighter unit saw its first action over Malta on 12 February 1941. That afternoon, B flight of RAF No. 261 Squadron was scrambled after radar detected 3 or 4 U-88s approaching at 20,000 feet. John Payne recalled that the flight leader, Gerald Watson, led them out to sea after the 4 U-88s in a stern chase. Payne criticized the policy of appointing the most senior ranking officer as flight leader, regardless of experience. Watson was a Wellington pilot temporarily pressed into flying Hurricanes while waiting for a replacement bomber. He had little knowledge of the Hurricane or fighter tactics. Payne suspected that the Junkers bombers might be decoys, so he pushed his engine to maximum boost, overtook the bombers and then banked left to make a beam attack on one of them. He saw 3 other pilots, Watson, Bradbury, and Thacker, maintaining formation. Suddenly, Payne spotted Messerschmitts diving down on his flight mates. He shouted a warning over the radio, then raked one of the U-88s from nose to tail. Moments later, he could only watch as the Hurricane leader Gerald Watson made no effort to evade despite further warnings. Watson's Hurricane rolled over and plunged straight into the sea. He was killed, probably instantly. Pilot officer David Thacker tried to turn into the attackers, but it was no use. His Hurricane caught fire and also went down. He managed to bail out over St. Paul's Bay and was eventually rescued. Payne believed that Flight Lieutenant Bradbury had also tried to evade the attack, but Sergeant Jim Pickering remembered events differently. Climbing through broken clouds at about 15,000 feet, Pickering became separated. When he emerged into clear air, he saw Flight Lieutenant Bradbury about 500 yards off his port side. Bradbury had accidentally left his radio on transmit instead of switching back to receive, a common but dangerous error as it prevented him from hearing any calls. Pickering was moving to rejoin formation when he spotted a Messerschmitt Bf-109 diving towards Bradbury's tail. His shouted warnings went unheard. Helplessly, he watched as the German fighter fired a burst at Bradbury's Hurricane before breaking away in a steep climb. Bradbury, unaware of the attack, assumed something was wrong with his engine and began a slow turn towards Lucca Airfield. Still believing his issue to be mechanical, he talked to himself over the radio, his microphone transmitting the entire time. He managed to glide back to Lucca and made a successful landing. John Payne claimed one of the Messerschmitts during the fight and was credited with a probable victory. even though the German unit recorded no losses or serious damage. German pilots claimed 3 Hurricanes shot down, one by Staffel leader Joachim Müncheberg at 4:41 p.m. and 2 by Feldwebel Werner Leibing at 4:45 and 4:47 p.m. It's somewhat difficult to reconcile these claims with British pilot recollections suggesting that the Hurricanes were hit almost simultaneously. However, as far as conflicting accounts of air battles go, this one aligns reasonably closely. The U-88 attacked by John Payne was able to return to Sicily, though damaged, and with 1 gunner killed. The morale of the Hurricane pilots, however, was badly shaken by the arrival of the Messerschmitts, which appeared over Malta again the very next day, 13 February. James McLachlan, leading A Flight, spotted 4 of them at 22,000 feet south of Camino. The German pilots did not notice the Hurricanes until they were within about 1,000 yards. Then they turned to starboard and climbed rapidly away. The Hurricane pilots could only watch the Germans slip out of reach. Their aircraft simply could not match the Bf-109's performance, especially at that altitude. This was only the first major battle between the Messerschmitts of 7th Staffel Jagdgeschwader 26 and the RAF Hurricanes over Malta. Let us know if you would like to see how the story continues, and as always, keep watching Showtime 112.